Thank you, Austin. Wow.
Wow. Oh, let's sit in these cocaine chairs
Good
and
morning.
talk about life, Nick.
I feel like Michael Bolton in this chair.
I feel like Michael Douglas. And then I have throat cancer. I wanted to announce that here first. All right, let's get started. What a weird way to start.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I brought some whiskey. Feel no obligation to drink it, but I'm going to have a little bit because I'm nervous talking to you, Nick, because I'm a real fan of yours.
I've been to church, so
It's time.
the timing is good.
So, who here went to church this morning? Just by a round of applause. Good for you. This is our church. For me, doing a panel.
The Austin Convention Center.
The Austin Convention Center is church for me, and then
where I
can,
worship.
Yeah, where I can get like a soggy pretzel and meet some dudes with lanyards. So Nick, what brings you to South by Southwest?
I'm here with two films. I love this festival. I first came here in '99, and I always seem to end up in the kind of films that come to this festival, which is a very lucky kind of film to end up in.
Pornographic films?
Pornographic films. Long-dicking films. And I have supporting roles. I'm a plumber in this one.
Yeah.
And
You are a plumber.
I'm in a beautiful movie that this guy Brett Haley made. His last movie was called "See You in My Dreams," starring Blythe Danner and Sam Elliott and Martin Starr, and it's a beautiful film in which Blythe stars. But he fell in love with Sam Elliott, so he wrote him this love letter of a film called "The Hero," and I get to play Sam's buddy and weed dealer, and it's just a beautiful film. I can't recommend it highly enough, despite my involvement.
Did you and Sam have deep, longing stares at one another?
We do have a scene in which he plays an aging actor for whom things are not going as well as they are for Sam Elliott. And he's auditioning for a film for the first time in a long time, and we have a scene where we're running lines. And it's a very emotional scene with his daughter. And it kind of takes a turn because he's so... it becomes moving all of a sudden because he's so good. So you can imagine shooting that with Sam was quite unnerving because it was hard not to put my mouth on him.
Yeah. Did he have the mustache or no mustache?
He had the mustache plus.
Man, oh man, you just want to clean that mustache with your lips, don't you?
It was the floppy.
And let's make
version.
sure that that's the quote that goes out there from this guy's. So you've got the film with Sam Elliott, and the other film you've got here?
The other one is called Infinity Baby, to which I will
L'chaim.
offer you good health. Delicious.
I have not had a drink in 6 years. This should be interesting. Infinity Baby. Talk to me about Infinity Baby,
Let's
Nick.
just dig into some silence for a
Yeah.
minute. Infinity Baby. There's a local filmmaker named Bob Byington who is a gas. He's a really smart and funny and strange filmmaker who I've known for a long time. Infinity Baby, I think, is my 5th film with him, and I produced it. And my wife, the talented goddess Megan Mullally. You'll be surprised to hear steals the movie from an incredible cast, but it's a really funny, strange film made on a script by Owner Turkle about
What's that name?
Owner Turkle.
Owner Turkle?
Yeah, I believe he's Turkish.
Okay.
And he's in New York. He has a really great movie called Catfight. Really talented guy and really funny writer. This is a big company does some stem cell research, and they make a mistake, and they end up with a bunch of babies that don't age, and they have to figure out what to do with them. And so it's sort of a morality tale about how perhaps we're all babies, and and how.
Do you like to be treated like a baby?
I like to have my bottom wiped.
Yeah.
If that's what you're driving at.
Yeah, well, you're a 21st century man.
Who doesn't? Yeah.
Yeah.
I like a nice powder.
Do you like a wipe up or a wipe down when you have your bottom wiped?
It depends. It depends on the mess that I've made.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest.
And and do you do like a powder? Do you like a baby powder, or do you have a brand?
Well, these days, I mean, it's like craft beer. You can get so many artisanal. I like a little coriander in my powder.
Well, then that's the thing about a city like Austin is you're going to get some beautifully artisanal made baby powder for your big man bottom. Speaking of your big man bottom, it's not so big these days. You're looking good. Are you? What do you do for exercise?
Thank you. I love to hike in Los Angeles, but I've actually been running recently.
From what?
From my past. Her name was Julia.
Julia. Louis Dreyfus. People. So.
I was having a Skype meeting with a director about a role in a big action movie, and I said to the guy, "You should definitely cast me because it would be the most audacious casting." It's one of those things where he's like, "Look, there's 5 guys that look like NFL players that look right, but they need to be funny in the way that you're funny." And I said, "Well, you can't make them funny. But if you cast me right now and put me in the gym for 5 months, you can make me almost look like that."
Sure. And that was to play the new Spider-Man.
That is the new Spider-Man. Spider-Man's dad.
And how did it go? How did the Skype meeting go?
Bad. But during the meeting, I said to myself, you know what? I'm gonna get ready so that next time I'm up for a film in which I have to run, I'll have some practice.
And how are your knees feeling with the
They're
running?
doing well.
Yeah. And do you wear a Red Wing boot when you run? What do you wear?
I don't. I wear these steel-toe blunt stones.
Yeah.
I have to keep my toenails trimmed.
You have to. How do you have a fungus on your toenail? Where are you at?
I do have assorted fungi all over my body.
Yeah.
I've got a weird, strange exfoliation going on in the back of my skull at the moment.
Really? I'm a rashy guy. I constantly suffer from rash. I'm an allergic person. Next question. You're a light-eyed gentleman like myself. Do you find that your skin is sensitive? These are the questions you guys have wanted to hear from Nick Offerman, right? And the answers to them.
I didn't realize we'd be going deep so quickly.
Yeah.
I guess my skin has pretty good stamina.
And you have the hands of a workman because.
Well, I have had the hands of a workman. At the moment, I have the hands of a ballet dancer.
Yes, because you're a soft little actor boy now.
That's right.
But that's not how you started, is it, Nick?
It's not. I used to have a lot more labor in my life. I made a lot of my income as a carpenter. I had my own scenery shop in Chicago, and I still have a wood shop in Los Angeles.
And what's that called?
Offermanwoodshop.com.
Okay, so the official name is offermanwoodshop.com.
That's right. I mean, that saves you a step.
Yeah, exactly. And so if people want to go purchase things, they could go to offermanwoodshop.com.
You can, yeah.
And what kind of items are available?
The name of the shop is also conveniently a website.
Now, the website is in offermanshop.com.com.
No, it's just it's all one. That's a good idea, though.
Yeah.
We have 6 woodworkers there, and they make a variety of gift items. You can just get like swag, like caps and T-shirts. But they also make mustache combs, cutting boards, meat paddles.
What was that?
Meat paddle.
What's a meat paddle?
Well, some use it to serve cheeses and figs on, and some use it to spank their lovers' bottoms.
Yeah, and then powder them ever so gently.
That's right.
And did you gift Sam Elliott a mustache comb at the end of your work together?
I don't think I would deign to. When people often gift me products that apparently I'm supposed to apply to my whiskers, and And I gratefully accept them and then give them to friends and say, I'm not sure what beard balm is, but it smells good.
Yeah, I don't think you don't seem like you'd wear a beard balm.
And Sam, again, I imagine Sam's got his shit covered.
What if you went home? What if you visited surprise Sam Elliott in his home at night and he had curlers on his mustache?
I'd love him even more.
Yeah. But so you were just to backtrack. You had a scene shop. Correct my wording of it because I know I've said it wrong. But you started out as an actor in theater in Chicago.
I did.
And you were simultaneously doing.
Yeah, when I went to the University of Illinois.
Fighting Illini.
Thanks everybody. At Champaign-Urbana, it's actually a great theater conservatory, and they prepare you more for regional theater to perform.
I mean, that's the dream, right?
Shakespeare and like across the board. So you can do the most classical pieces, but you can also do contemporary, funny Martin McDonough plays, or Sam Shepard or what have you. And I was lucky to get in. I think they accepted 16 people a year. And I quickly learned that some of those people were talented and attractive, and then a couple of us could carry like the litter upon which those other people rode and delivered monologues.
Yes.
And so I was really bad at acting all through college, but I was valued by my friends because I could build all the scenery, and we did a lot of sword fighting, and I was good at that. I was a choreographer.
You were good at sword fighting and fight choreography?
I was, yeah. So then we formed a company and moved to Chicago. It was called the Defiant Theater, and then I started about 4 or 5 years into acting. I started to figure out naturalism.
Yeah.
And what I learned in hindsight was that initially, because I came from a small town called Manuka, and I grew up really without...
Any Manuka heads here?
Manuka? What's up?
We got one Manuka head.
Kenny Bolte, what's up? Seward Township. What I learned was that I was insecure because I felt like a hayseed with all these cool kids from Chicago and the suburbs who had already done Shakespeare plays, and like they were so cosmopolitan. They knew about the Beatles and all that shit.
I am not familiar. And is that a music? And the Beatles are who?
It was Paul McCartney's band
before Wings.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, that was the prequel. Okay, got it.
They had some good records. And but for real, I literally I had seen the Beatles cartoon, and so we had their first couple Help records and Please Please Me, as it was called. And my friends in college were like, okay, this is Weed, and this is the White Album. And this is David Lynch, and this is William S. Burroughs, and Laurie Anderson, and so forth.
Yeah.
The Talking Heads, and They Might Be Giants, and so suddenly that's when my cultural education began at age 18 in a lot of ways, and so I felt getting on stage, I felt like I had to be much cooler than me, and then it took me 4 or 5 years to realize that I wasn't ever going to play someone cool. I was going to play a plumber, and so I could just act like myself and be a hairy plumber.
Right. But then you ended up playing Ron Swanson, who might be the coolest gentleman ever to grace the small screen.
Maybe thank you for that generous estimation, but I would argue that Ron Swanson, the person, is not necessarily super cool.
Well, I don't know about that. I've never wanted to fuck someone on camera more.
Oh. Can we take this off stage?
Yeah, no. Well,
intermission.
Yeah. There's a tiny baby up front who got real excited about Ron Swanson. But Ron was, would you say Ron was you all of a sudden realize there's a baby up front?
I know that baby.
You know that baby?
That baby's my friend.
Yeah. That baby is wearing a shirt that looks like you would be wearing. He's wearing like a little plaid shirt, like a little Nick Offerman lumbersexual.
That baby's skull. His name is Oliver Wendell.
Is it?
And his skull is in the 97th percentile for skull size.
Really?
Look at the
skull.
Look at that kid.
And then his buddy's right next door, hanging out, enjoying that. How you doing, sir? That's your cousin? What's your name? Hi, Henry.
What's up, Henry? I hope you've learned some things about your genitalia in the show so far.
And then we've got a young lady who's covered herself in a sweater as well. What's your name, ma'am? Julia? Hi, Julia.
You look pretty in pink, Julia.
Yeah. Do you know one year for Halloween, Julia, I wore all pink and put makeup on and went for Halloween as Pretty in Pink?
I'm not surprised.
How could you not know that? It was 11 years ago in New York City.
But you have that way about you. It's in your gait.
Thank you. Do you have a favorite Halloween costume?
I don't like Halloween. I used to like it when I was a rabid hedonist. In my early years. In fact, one of the first times I met Amy Poehler in the early '90s, we had a guy in my theater company lived with a guy in the UCB company.
Sure.
So it's funny because she was in the comedy scene and I was in the theater scene. And people say, oh, you guys,
You were in Chicago together back
together.
in the day, but it was like ne'er the two shall meet back in the day.
You never saw each other's stuff because as 20-year-olds, you think, oh, you make up shit in a bar. Have fun. Good luck with that. And, I'm going to be performing literature.
Yeah. And you're going to wear tights and say dead people's words.
That's right. And so we only met smoking bongs in this attic in Rogers Park.
Take note, Oliver.
And so I used to ride this 1979 Kawasaki motorcycle.
Yeah, dude.
It was dark brown.
Yeah.
And I went to...
You're a rabid hedonist.
And I was a rabid hedonist. I was doing Clockwork Orange at Steppenwolf Theater, which is a nice company in Chicago.
Never heard of it.
They do good plays. And
not interested.
I had shaved the top of my head. I had a big beard, and I left the front inch of my hair, and it came down into the beard, so it looked like a faceplate.
Great.
And it was dyed crimson.
Perfect.
And so then I just did some eye makeup and wore like a crazy black leather outfit and showed up on my motorcycle for Halloween. And Amy tried to beat me up. She was mad at how evil I looked.
How cool it was?
Yeah.
That's a good Halloween. And since then, you've since given up on Halloween.
I didn't think... I feel like it's the rest of the world's turn to do what I do for a living.
We dress up in a lot of the year, so it's not...
Yeah, I mean, I feel like since you've became so successful with your sketch show and did so many...
Thank you.
Your amazing sketch show.
Thank you.
By the way, I've been on to this guy...
For those of you who don't know, it's called Chappelle's Show. You should check it out. It was a really... Chappelle's
It's
show.
really funny.
Thank you.
They do a thing called The Blacks.
Yeah. We wrote that sketch, me and my friends from college, just a random side brag.
I believe it.
One of the first things we ever wrote.
This is a slightly deep pull, but if you'd like the show Children's Hospital, that's the
first time we met.
I've known Nick for a while, but when I saw him on Children's Hospital, he plays a couple different roles, and he much like Jonathan Pryce in the movie Baron von Munchausen, Nick shits out his own accents. He's so good at it that he just can make up a European, like Slavic accent that's both convincing and hilarious. And so I've been a deep fan of his.
I remember the first time I met you was at UCB, and you had done some Children's Hospital, and I had done some. I was playing I had a Benjamin Button. It's different from Infinity Baby, but it was similar in that I had reverse. I was born a full-grown man, and if you Google, you can see me.
There's a scene of it sliding out of Lake Bell.
Yeah, fully nude, covered in afterbirth. You're gonna want to check that out, Julia. And But you play a cop with Rob Hubel the first season, and then I remember meeting you and being a fan of yours, and you were very nice to me. And I remember you were sucking on a nicotine lozenge, and it was I believe a coffee flavored nicotine lozenge.
Yeah, they discontinued that flavor
Because you ate them all.
to my chagrin.
Yeah.
Yes.
You were in that. Do you still suck on a nicotine lozenge on occasion?
I do, yeah. It's I have a terrible smoking habit, or did. I was the best smoker I've ever met.
Oh, you didn't meet me when I was a smoker. I was a great smoker.
Although I met the graveyard lady last night at our hotel. Told me that she never. I was really impressed because I was really good at smoking. I was about 2 packs a day.
Good for you.
That was my greatest talent.
Yeah.
But she said, we were talking, and she said, I haven't seen a lot of movies in my life because I used to be a terrible smoker, and I could never sit in a theater for 2 hours because I couldn't go 2 hours without smoking.
Whoa.
And I said, man, you should check out movies. They're dope.
She just should have gone to that theater that Robert De Niro goes to in Cape Fear. You can smoke in that theater. Right? Fuck you guys.
Theater. There should be one Alamo Draft House where you can smoke.
Ugh. Right? Yeah. Give it up for that idea that will never occur.
You can fire one up in here. It's cool with us.
Yeah.
I mean.
If you guys got a vape pen, let's just burn this place down. So now we really haven't. I should get to some actual things that you've done. You've written out. How many books have you written at this point?
3 books.
Let's start with the first one.
That's called Paddle Your Own Canoe.
Yeah.
One Man's Fundamentals for Delicious Living.
Yeah. And then you followed that up with Gumption.
Gumption.
The relighting the torch of freedom with America's gutsiest.
Troublemakers. It's really fun to when people introduce me like on a book tour to hear them have to recite that entire subtitle.
Yeah.
Which I would add as a small point of interest that's kind of boring, but my publisher makes me add these fucking subtitles to my books because I'm like, gumption, boom, that's a kick-ass book.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we need to let them know a little bit, like, what is it? What's it about? You know,
about gumption.
It's like, who fucking cares? It's called gumption.
But then you did explaining, relighting the torch of freedom with America's gutsiest.
Troublemakers.
Now I know what the goddamn book is about.
All right.
Gumption just sounds like a weird, like Crohn's disease. I don't know why.
To me, it sounds like a dish you would cook in a stew pot.
Oh yeah, we got a
gumption.
delicious gumption.
Yeah.
With a local chorizo.
We got some fresh shellfish.
Some fresh shellfish. And then your most recent book, Good, Clean, Fun, Misadventures in Sawdust at Offerman Wood Shop.
That's right.
And that is a book of poetry?
There is poetry in all my
there?
books, yes. My best poem is in my first book. It's a haiku to the bratwurst.
Would you recite it for us now?
Let me see if I can pull it out of my ass.
Your powdered bum?
No, I don't have it. It's skin tube of meat. Yeah, I don't have it.
Yeah.
It ends with a little mustard. But Good Clean Fun is about woodworking. It's about my shop. Each of the woodworkers has a chapter how to make something. And then it's also a lot of writing from me about making things and making a life with a community of people that makes things, and how richly rewarding that is without ever having to go to the mall or buy a lot of athletic shoes from Zappos.com.
Well, what if you want to buy a sensible pump?
then Zappos is the place to go.
How long have you been working with most of the people in the shop?
Well, I started the shop about 17 years ago. I transitioned from scenery to decks and cabins and some timber framing, and that involves joinery without nails and screws and fasteners. And when I was learning that joinery, I realized that if I shrunk it down, I could make heirloom furniture. So that was in my late 20s, and I started my shop. And it supplemented my acting income for several years.
Because there wasn't much.
That's the reason, yes. Yeah, I made about 99.7% of my, and then the 0.3% was a guest spot on NYPD Blue.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What was your part on NYPD Blue?
I actually did 2 of them.
Congratulations doubly.
That was my Law and Order. I wasn't in New York, but I got to play 2 different miscreants, both times tracked down by Dennis Franz, and he tuned me up in the pokey. And the second appearance, that's not a euphemism. It's a
literal.
It's a police procedural term.
Okay.
The second time I played a building super.
Congrats.
Who there was a dead girl was found in the water tower on the roof.
Yeah.
And you're not sure about the building super, and finally at the end they figure out it was me, and he busts into my place, and they find me literally in my closet dressed in her red lace bra and panties.
And that was by coincidence?
This is viewable, Julia, on the internet, but I don't recommend it.
Was that petrifying, those early TV gigs for you? How did it?
Well, it was weird because on one hand, I'm a theater actor, and so even now the roles I do are not as satisfying as theater roles because you just don't get to do as much.
Right.
You know, in the theater, a lot more weight is on your shoulders to carry the show. You have a lot more material to deliver, and your presence is much more palpable within the actual artwork. So even in these nice roles in this Sam Elliott movie, or I was recently in that The Founder with Michael Keaton.
Yes.
And I had a really nice part in that. But when I stack that against, doing The Crucible on stage, they're 2 very different meals.
Now, that's different than The Crucible, which is a Tom Cruise-based Crucible.
It is, yes. That's the Tom Cruise. It's a mashup of The Crucible and Cocktail.
Oh, that's the dream, isn't it?
John Proctor juggles.
These people don't want me making my delicious drinks. Do you have a favorite role that I've played over the years? No. Do you have a favorite role? Do you have a favorite piece of theater if you had to do one play?
Oh, boy, that's a tough question.
By the way, you can supplement tough or bad if you want.
That's a terrible question. Woodworking. Well, I do. A year and a half ago in Boston, I got to do a Confederacy of Dunces on stage and play Ignatius J. Riley.
Wow.
In a fat suit, and it was a huge hit. We broke. This is an open brag. Nathan Lane texted me to say, "You son of a bitch, you broke my sales record at the Huntington Theater for his show Butley." And I said, "I apologize. It's through no fault of my own." Because I want to stay on his good side.
Yes, we all do. Now, you wore a fat suit for Confederacy of Dunces, and this was a stage adaptation of Shallow Hal?
Somewhat, yeah, sort of a prequel.
Okay.
But
like the Beatles to Wings, yeah.
Yeah, that was there's something about that role, and that book is considered unadaptable.
Yeah.
And Steven Soderbergh tried really hard to make a movie of it, and he was one of our producers on the play, and everybody felt like, oh, we've cracked it. Because the play was very successful. But the New York theater community is known to be very cliquish, and particularly the New York Times theater critics consider themselves somewhat the arbiters of American theater.
They do.
And one of them came uninvited, of his own volition, to our opening night, which was like our 8th performance, and gave us a really, I'm going to say, impolite review.
Julie, if you could just cover your ears real quick for this part. What kind of review is it?
It was cunty. It was really cunty review.
You're good. You're good now, Julia.
And it was one of those things where it begged the question: why did you take it upon yourself to come to Boston and so we had planned to take the show to New York and then London, but New York, once that happened, said, "Oh, we saw the review in the Times. Sorry, guys." So I'd love to get to do that some more because it was.
Well, do you think Austin would be interested in seeing Confederacy of Dunces Spot?
I don't know.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're in luck. Mr. Nick Offerman.
Come on. Bring out the mustache.
Yeah, I wanted to briefly touch on your wife, Megan.
That's cool, as long as you keep it
You can watch.
between the solar plexus and the navel.
You got it. You've worked with her a number of times. What's it like to work with your spouse?
It's, well, we met doing a play, and at the time I was living in someone's basement in Silver Lake.
Congrats.
Thank you. Knowing her, and she really has really refined taste, and she's very persnickety about everything in her life, and so I can't understand how she rolled the dice on me.
Those big blues.
When we met, I guess these big blues, and my scintillating wit, apparently.
Yeah.
But we met doing a play, and I was still in theater snob mode, so I had not had a television for about 10 years, and I eschewed sitcoms. They were looked down upon by the theater community, which is a defense mechanism that you can tell people why you're not on a television sitcom. Well, they're beneath me. That's why.
Right.
And
I want to wear women's panties in a closet for Stephen Bochco.
Yeah.
Every 4 years.
But so we did this play, and so I hadn't seen Will and Grace. There were 2 seasons into Will and Grace. This is the year 2000, but immediately I was taken. Megan is like a Mel Brooks movie. She's just a legend immediately.
Yeah.
And she was the lead of the play, and I just said, "Holy God, you're amazing!" And it's funny because I was aware that she was about to win her first Emmy. Like, she was this exciting TV talent, and so I had some walls of insecurity between us. Sort of, I should do that in that direction. And she also she was like dating. She had been married and it didn't work out, so she was also looking for a fling, as you do in a play. But we became friends first, and I think that was the in. If I had made the moves immediately, it would have not gone well. But I got under her skin by having good manners and carrying some stuff to her car for her.
Nice.
And so we met collaborating, and it was really fun, and that's how we hit it off, was with our senses of humor. Then I watched them make the last 6 seasons of Will and Grace, and I was like a student. I had a free pass because I was her husband to hang out wherever I wanted to, and I treated it like college. I just was fast. I went from being a snob to being like, how can I possibly get this job?
Yeah.
This is insane.
Did you do any multi-camera? Have you done
Will
multicam?
and Grace was my first. I did 1 episode of Will and Grace, and that was my first.
What character did you play?
I played Nick the plumber in a Thanksgiving episode in which the character Karen Walker ends up kissing me in the kitchen and then slapping me a couple times. It was
ripped from the headlines.
It was a satisfying role.
Yeah.
But so then watching her especially make that show made her just like an absolute hero to me. And so then when we got around to, and we did a couple little like weird things in movies or whatnot, and Children's Hospital started right before Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
So then when Parks and Rec started, and they ended up writing the role of Tammy 2 for her,
Yeah.
getting to do that with her on like a big, a network show was such a dream come true for me, because it was like I was with Carol Burnett, where I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And she's like my ex-wife. Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah.
I was really excited. And so that was the first time that we sort of behaved as a comedy team.
Yeah.
And then we've built on that, where now we're writing a book together that's like a funny book about our relationship. We have a comedy special coming on the Epics channel. That's a channel. It's called Epics.
Yes.
With an X.
They have quality. They do have good stuff on there.
Yeah, it's new.
What's it called?
Epics.
Oh, good.
It's a channel.
That was the question I was asking.
It's the special is called Summer of '69, no apostrophe.
Nice. That's your big fuck you to the people who want a quotient, a colon.
It is.
Yeah.
Is
it called Summer of '69, no apostrophe?
It is.
It's a great title.
Summer of '69, no apostrophe. So that's something. Megan is 11 years older than me, and she is just.
Why does she look better than you then?
Because I drink whiskey at 12:30 meetings.
When in Rome.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, brother.
Hey, brother.
Well, I have more questions, but I also want to make sure that there's some time for people to ask questions. So I'll keep talking, but if people have some questions they want to start lining up, we'll begin that process. This gentleman's come right up. And why don't you go ahead?
My question is for Nick.
Honestly, I would drop out right now because you just won. So, but go ahead and ask your question.
You're not going to beat that laugh.
Nick Offerman, I used to read, and I read somewhere that you would consider yourself a humorist instead of a comedian. Could you just a little bit, both of you, I'd love to hear sort of your elaboration on what that difference is and why.
Well, gosh, I've never been asked this sitting on stage with a comedian. But
I consider myself a humor-ish.
Because I'm a theater actor, and I started doing Parks and Rec, and colleges began inviting me to come perform my stand-up. And at first I demurred and said, "Oh, I don't do that. You're thinking of Kevin James."
We always are.
The other TV plumber.
Yeah. And look, honestly, Kevin can wait. But come on.
That's a comedian. That's the answer to the question. Is Nick can think of a joke like that.
Yeah. Which is the name of his show. But go ahead.
Which you created.
Yeah. I'm the creator of Kevin Can Wait.
After being asked a couple times, I said, "Hang on, how many kids? Ohio State, 2,000 kids." I said, "Yes, please book it. I have some things I would like to say to 2,000 Buckeyes about manners." And I'd written a couple dumb like comedy songs for Megan. I was an aspiring, funny songwriter and player. So I said, I'll do a couple of my songs, and I started writing this show, which became American Ham, which is 10 tips for prosperity.
Where can you watch American Ham?
On the Netflix channel, also with an X.
Okay, great.
And so I've definitely had some insecurity because I don't feel like I'm not a funny writer of jokes. We both get to be around Zach Galifianakis a lot at this place called Largo in Los Angeles. And Zach, of all the people I know, has the most amazing facility to say the funniest fucking left field weirdness out of any situation that I marvel at, and I'm just grateful to be there when he says these things. To me, that's a comedian. And so I got in an I was so now I've done it a lot, and I've been argued down a couple times, and I'm happy to be called whatever you like. I just think when you see a stand-up, they try harder to be to have laughter more often than I do. I'm happy to talk for a while about some meaningful shit without worrying about putting a joke in.
Yeah, as we've experienced today.
Yes. So that's the difference.
Yes.
Speaking of meaningful things, I wanted to ask both of you, as actors, how do you feel the importance of like random impulse in a role that you're playing is to portraying the character that you're portraying?
Well, I'll go first because my random impulse was to defer to you, but you were drinking water and looking at me. So I think it depends. I would. It's like, I have found the more that you're locked in to something, even if you're not improvising at all, there is great moments of a random impulse of just making a new choice within not even changing a word of it. And if you're feeling in a collaborative mode and you feel safe, that I think you can attack from a random impulse. And sometimes it's wrong, and sometimes it's kind of can be magical. And I think it's personally about creating an environment where that's all safe to do, and I think that's like a top-down thing. And it's something I watched Nick and Amy and Mike Schur specifically on Parks and Rec. The environment on that show was so supportive and kind and loving that you felt safe to go to try things and take some risks. And I think that personally, I find that if you can create a safe environment for good work, then sometimes those random impulses lead to great stuff or nonsense, and it's okay, and you move on.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the business, in the 20 years I've been in LA, there's really been an evolution towards this, where it used to be a fear-based system where the company would, create a script, and then you couldn't deviate from the script because it's been vetted by the company. And sometime around 15 years ago or so, kind of when Amy's generation of UCB performers came to LA, suddenly they began to recognize the value of letting these geniuses improvise. And so now, I think the most successful, especially comedies, but just generally on set, if you have a good, ideally you have a script that's solid and works and tells a story, and you try to, for me, make your sense of impulse match the good writing you've been given. And when you do that, maybe you'll find a couple places where you're like, oh, my impulse is different here. And nowadays, healthy sets allow you to say, hey, what if I do this other idea? And then there's collaboration where it's a yes or no, or maybe you do both ways, so you have a choice in the editing room. So it's very important, but I think everybody is working together so that the writer's impulses and the directors and the actors all end up telling the story in the most productive way.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
You bet.
Hi.
Hi.
Big fan of both you, Nick, and you, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My question, I think you touched on the character of Ron Swanson a little bit ago. I'd love for you to elaborate, if you would, on the fact that Ron Swanson is now an icon for the libertarians in this country.
Oh, really?
I've heard.
Yeah, I'll try and. How can I briefly do this? Yeah, it's really interesting. It didn't really occur to me until until we got into this dire political awakening, that a certain percentage of the audience didn't understand that it was a joke, or I think they comprehended that Parks and Recreation is a comedy, but somehow they thought Ron Swanson was a documentary for a moment, and they said, "God,
Wait, it's not?
It's not. It's a joke." And also, the audiences.
Why did I vote for Gary Johnson twice?
Come on. You son of... I'm sorry I drank your whiskey. If that's the case.
I mean, your next book.
I've talked about it where I really appreciate a lot of the tenets of libertarianism, but I think that it's so far been proven that it can't work, apparently, because it would end in chaos and anarchy. And also, if you're going to put up a goofball like Gary Johnson, even Swanson would be like, well, Jesus Christ. What are you thinking?
That sounded exactly like Ron Swanson.
He would never take the name of the Lord.
No.
Yes, he would. But it's something that I took great offense to it because a lot of people were saying, you're stupid. Ron would actually vote for Trump. So I got a hold of Mike Schur in my use of the social media channel.
Mike Schur, creator of Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, the head writer.
Yeah,
because when people ask me stuff, I can't answer for Ron because I am a collaborator in his creation
With the Nazi Party. Go ahead.
but way smarter people than me, like Joseph Goebbels, wrote him. You know,
Yeah.
and you know, more than anything, more than politics, Ron is a decent person. And Mike Schur wrote this really great response that I tweeted out that said he never would have voted for Trump because Trump went from business to politics, which is a huge step down in Ron's eyes. And also, Trump is so indecent to women, and Ron is fucking decent to women and everybody.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you just can't, you know, regardless of your politics, you can't deny the fact that Trump is a cheese dick criminal. You know, it's like, I understand...
Julie, you don't have to cover your ears for that one.
Yeah. I understand how it came to pass, and, you know, I want to like everybody in the country, but even if you are on his side, you have to at least admit that he's a horrible person.
Well.
Hey.
Look, I think he's good at business, and
Okay. Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you.
As you step up, I will just say part of the reason people, I think, would like Ron Swanson or believe that he would be a libertarian is because you created a character that was multidimensional and believed in certain things, but was someone who people who had some of those beliefs could look up to as like a well-rounded version of that man. And I think that's why it resonated with people.
Well, I think you're right, and thank you for saying that. But that's the thing. That's the thing we all have to figure out is like, I think it's very healthy to have a gun and go hunting or go fishing. I like those things. And I think that those people who do that generally are in touch with how we're using the planet and nature. And that's a healthy thing. That's a farmer thing.
Yeah.
But that is easily conflated with just guns and people who liked, you know, there's the goofballs in this town who like to walk around with an AR-15 because they can. That to me, like Ron would like laugh his ass off at those people.
Yeah, I
Be
mean,
like,
I keep mine concealed.
yeah, you keep it tucked in your boot.
And people are like, yes.
Hello, hi.
Hello.
So we often hear about how Nick Offerman relates to his character Ron Swanson, certain aspects of that character. But I'm curious how you, Mr. Kroll, relate to Ruxin or anybody else that you've.
Boom.
The other sweetheart characters that I've played over the years. The highly likable, deeply sympathetic characters that I've chosen to portray. Well, I think the goal is, I think there are aspects to ourselves in all the characters we play, hopefully, because then it makes them well-rounded, believable characters. And even the worst of them, I've tried to infuse with some version of humanity, or it's exercising some demons within me. So like Ruxin, I couldn't feel more different than as like what a sour soul he was. But he got to say things that I could think and would never say out loud. And I think so. I think it's I don't know. I mean, I think like getting to play bad people is really fun because it allows you to either exercise things that are gross things within you, or like prosecute things that you see elsewhere. I don't know if that does. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very therapeutic.
Yeah. So I guess that would be my answer if that makes sense.
Cool, thank you.
Thanks. Go fuck yourself. Go ahead. Yes.
Hello, yes.
Eat shit. Go ahead.
Yes. So, acting and stand-up comedy are both known as professions in which where they're more risky. You know, not everyone makes it. Everyone has their trials and tribulations. Was there ever a point when you guys were, rising, when you were training, doing your thing, where you thought maybe this isn't for me, maybe I should be doing something else?
No, it was totally easy.
It only took you 20 some odd years to become
Yeah,
a working paid actor.
I was a 24-year overnight success. For me, I'll say I'm very dogged. I'm very stubborn, and I just I knew when I was a kid that I had this impulse that I wanted to entertain people, and I knew that I would get it right someday, and I knew that I wasn't the most talented or sharpest tool in the shed, but I had little moments along the way. And it's a little gross because there's a famous person in this story, but like early on with Megan, she was on Will and Grace, so not a big
Pretty
deal.
famous.
No, but we were, I don't know, this is maybe 15 years ago. We were walking on the beach in Malibu one day, and a single person came walking along, and we were like walking in ankle-deep water, and it was beautiful. And it's Gary Shandling. And I had not met him. Megan had met him, and they said hi, and she introduced us, and we just briefly said hello. And he kept looking at me, kind of like trying to take my measure. And it was a pretty brief exchange, but at the end of it, he just said to me, "Stick with it. You've got something." And we didn't even say like I'm an actor or anything. And I said, "Okay, thank you. Nice to see you." And I was so moved by that. And then years later, we ran into him at something, and he took me aside and he said, "Hey, thanks for not making an asshole out of me." And there were just little moments like that where I knew that I wasn't great, but the world kept telling me, stick around. But the key for me was that my wood shop saved me because I always made sure that I had a fruitful and happy life between being Mr. Mullally, which was a really fun gig. I would bring her slippers and her pipe when she would come home from work and have her dinner warm. Mm-hmm. And then I would make stuff at my shop, and I made money, making furniture for people. That was key, to make sure that I had a life so that I didn't just desperately depend on every audition to like pay my rent.
Yeah, and for me, there was nothing else I ever wanted to or thought I could do. I had no choice but to stay after it because I just was like, this is the one thing I've ever done that even the bullshit, small, busy work of it didn't feel like work. It's like it's going to be every job you do is going to be filled with so much annoying things that you have to do to get towards the final goal, and all of it felt like I'm happy to do it. But I also agree that you have to have small kernels of acceptance along the way at different levels of whether it's Gary Shandling seeing you on the beach in Malibu and randomly saying you made
recommend it.
And or like me being in New York and getting to do like Invite Them Up, like Eugene Merman's show, or coming to LA and being able to do Comedy Death Ray when I first came to LA, and someone like Scott Aukerman being like, come back and do it again. That there were those kernels along the way. So, because I will say, like, I won't just say if you just work hard you'll make it, because some of you aren't talented. So it's like I think you have to work really, really hard. Can't imagine doing anything else. Or in Nick's case, you could be you could do other things. But anyway, so that's what I would say.
Or build craftsman furniture.
Oh God, what a goddamn dream!
You gotta. You just
Thanks.
gotta do it.
Thanks, man.
Hello.
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 Long-time listener, first-time caller. Nick Offerman, your thoughts and feelings on the Manuka pumpkin patch, its associated Civil War reenactors, and the many open-fire stew pots there.
No fucking idea what you just said, sir. Manuka pumpkin patch, llama, camel goulash.
There's Civil War reenactors and such that congregate out there.
In my hometown of Manuka?
Yes.
Are you sure about this?
I'm positive I've been there.
I'm just gonna push this to the next question. I believe it's an awesome thing, and you guys can discuss it. But we're running out of time, so
I will look it up and either celebrate it or shut it down.
and I believe,
I think shut it down. So
You have my word.
and I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that Manuka pumpkin patch is actual sexual position.
Oh, muzzleloaders, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thumbs up.
Hi. So
Wrap that rascal.
Parks and Rec is one of my all-time favorite shows, and I think the aspect that makes it so amazing is that a lot of the characters were created and developed around the actors themselves, and they really incorporate your personal styles.
Like the douche.
Yeah. So yeah, because I feel
For
like
example.
I'm watching.
Yeah.
It's so much to the point where I feel like I'm watching Ron Swanson and the douche having a conversation in front of me.
Douche nation.
And, so my question is really, do you prefer the roles that really incorporate your personality and comedic style, or do you really like the roles that really go in opposition to your character and your...
Well, I'll briefly say, as a theater actor, I love as much variety as possible. My favorite thing is to just be unrecognizable. That's, my favorite thing is to do a sizable role and have people say, "Holy cow, I didn't realize that was you." But it all depends. I mean, it's hard to hold Ron Swanson up to any other role I've done because it was so much more in magnitude.
So much real estate.
Yeah, and in quality. Like, I've never had such great writers write something for me like that.
But then to watch you in something like Fargo, to me was such a different. You're like, oh, there's Nick, and then you're like, oh no, that's not the Nick I've been watching, which I loved and I thought was such a cool role and deviation for you.
Thank you. But and that's more like, I don't know. It's funny. Everyone accuses me of being a lot like Ron, but I was clowning pretty hard. Like, I was taking this one part of myself and, like, really tuning into certain aspects. And then for Fargo, I used other parts of my toolbox, but we just saw so much of Ron that everybody was like, oh, that's just what he's like. But actually, I'm super sissy.
Yeah. He likes to have his bottom powdered.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sir?
This question is for Nick Offerman, but Nick Kroll, you have the opportunity to have Jeff Goldblum cast as your dad in
Yes.
the league, which is really awesome, great casting.
Thank you.
Amen.
Nick Offerman,
Great
if you
question.
if you were to have your dad as Ron Swanson, what actor would that be to play that?
Well, we tried at one point to get Chris Christopherson to play Ron Swanson's dad, and it didn't work out.
And they ended up with Chris Christie.
Yeah. And we got him to town,
Yeah.
and then we got his craft service rider,
Yeah.
and we had to shut the whole thing down.
Yes, go ahead.
Thanks, guys. That's it.
Yes, thanks. We got a little time left, so go ahead.
Hello?
Hi.
Hello.
Big fan of both of you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
This question is for Nick Offerman. I know, it was kind of similar to the question, two people before me, but how do you feel about your character as Ron Swanson on Parks and Rec, and what kind of twists did you put on the original character?
Well, the original notion was when they were creating the show, they met a lady in Burbank, California, as they were researching government and parks and recreation departments. They met this lady who was a libertarian who worked for Parks and Rec, and she hated the government, and they thought that was so funny. And they talked to her, and she had a little bit of that where she was like, I'd really love to just shut all this down. I think it's such a waste. And they said, what a hilarious character trait. And so that was the inception of Ron Swanson. When they created the show, they initially auditioned me to play the role that became Mark Brendanowitz. And we did these chemistry reads. At the time, the guy's name was Sean, and I was supposed to end up as a love interest for Rashida. And we shot these scenes, and with me and Rashida being like, hey, what's up? I'm Sean. and it was really fun and funny, and the writing, like, Megan always helps me with my scenes, and we were like, this is it. Like, it's really sarcastic and funny. And they shot the scenes and turned them into NBC, and NBC literally said, you told us someone like Aaron Eckhart, and you fucking hand us Nick Offerman? No, thank you.
Yeah.
And so then the guys obstinately said, well, Leslie's boss is supposed to be 60, but let's make it Nick. And they stuck to their guns, and it was really hard, but they persevered, and I got the job. So it started with all that stuff, in the first season and in the pilot of like, I wish Chuck E. Cheese was running the government, and Bobby Knight, and those were sort of the jumping off points. And then they sort of mixed it with my stentorian delivery, and we collaborated. I asked for an episode where I was a boys basketball coach. I asked for a scouting episode. There was an episode that we never did where me and Andy get lost in the woods. Oh. And Ron's skills get them almost home, but then somehow he gets injured and fails, and then Andy
becomes the biggest movie star in the world.
Yes. Andy runs into some casting directors and becomes Star-Lord.
Well, I noticed that the other people who were about to ask their questions got sent away because we're out of time. So I want to thank all of you guys for coming out and supporting two fucking people blowing each other. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Nick Offerman.
Nick Kroll, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks for coming. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.